from.
There we go.
So we do appreciate everybody tuning in today. This program had been planned obviously for some time and ended up being exceptionally timely given the many changes that are occurring in our world right now. So first, we just hope everybody at the Chamber hopes that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy and are practicing all of the social distancing recommendations from the CDC and our state and local health departments. We are doing that for the Chamber as well. We are all now working remotely, but I want to assure you all that we are still working hard all day and even into the evening and night for each one of you. So as we continue to progress and can work to get our arms around the vast amount of information that is being shared both at the federal, state, and local levels, please know that we are your resource and that we want to hear from you in ways that we can best assist your business through these trying times. So today we have with us three experts that can really shed some light on the variety of new information, new programs, new legislation that has been crafted very rapidly at both the federal and state and local level. So our lobbyist, Natalie Bright, who is with Bright Carpenter, will be with us today. Also Kate Rohr, with Congresswoman David's office, and Alex Richards, the state director for Senator Moran, has joined us on our first ever virtual chamber lunch. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off. I believe that Kate Rohr, the legislative assistant with Congressman David's, is on the line. Kate, are you available to start off and talk about the new information that the House approved, I believe, last week?
And I just got an email from Kate that she is on a call with Congressman David, and she will be joining us a little bit late.
Oh,
so
okay.
If we can move on to Alex, we can come back to her.
Okay, that sounds great. Alex, are you there, Alex? Good afternoon. Hello, Alex. All right, guys, I apologize as we sort of work our way through this, still working out some of the kinks. Natalie, do we want to just go ahead and have you start in and then we can go back to Kate and Alex when they are available?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And I know I really appreciate Kate and Alex agreeing to participate in this. As they are truly working, I'm sure, around the clock. And the big third phase of the stimulus package passed late last night. So I'm sure Alex was busy tracking that. So let's get started with our state update. Thank you for everybody being on the call. I know these are unprecedented times, and I want to assure you that the Kansas state government is reacting and doing the best that they can to try to assist us. I will give kudos to the administration, to our lawmakers who are being responsive and trying to help us maneuver these unventured waters before. So to kind of put a time frame around this, everything began becoming real on March 12th when the governor did establish a state of emergency on March 12th. We knew that that was going to be necessary in order to draw down federal funds and other programming changes we might need. We had a little bit of a lay time until March 17th, but since then we've had 14 executive orders that the governor has issued. And I'm going to review those a little bit in detail next, but never in our time that I've been around have we seen that many executive orders issued in such a short amount of time. So that just gives evidence to the fast moving, to the opportunities that they are there to try to work with their local governments, Kansans, and as well as our elected officials in DC. Right now, as of today, we have 12 counties who have mandated a 30-day stay at home. We do not have a statewide stay at home at this point, and the governor, as well as her KDHE director, are both concerned about doing that and want to be very cautious. It's not that it could not come at some point, but due to the nature of our state, where we have more rural areas, they have not done that state 30-day notice. But we do have 12 of our major counties. We may see more of those counties as we see cases increase, be added. But at this point, what we are paying attention is the perimeters that were put around the limited number of 10 gatherings. And the governor did outline essential businesses and essential industries that are exempt from those perimeters. And then she also did some guidance in her last executive order indicating if we do have these 30-day mandated local ordinances by county, that they pay attention to these key industries that need to be essential businesses. She wanted to put some parity across the state as these counties are putting these 30-day stay-at-home orders. So there are parameters that help keep open transportation, hospitals, banking industry, any types of core services like insurance, those things we might need, as well as your grocery stores, your Home Depots, your hardware stores to stay open. The legislature did their part before they left. They did end their session 2 weeks early. They worked very hard to get some of the key measures in place that the governor would need to move forward through these next few weeks. They were scheduled to have their veto session starting April 27th, but at this point, we aren't certain that that will happen. We will just have to monitor as we continue to venture this, whether or not that's going to be possible. They are an exempt, the legislature is exempt under the guidelines. So if they were to meet, it could be under limited situations, but there may be reasons why we need them to meet. And nothing may be more evident than the unemployment claims that came out yesterday. I know you've probably heard the national numbers of 3.2 million. Never have seen that number before in filings, let alone in such a short amount of time. But in Kansas alone, we went from having record lows of 1,820 claims to yesterday, they reported 23,925 over 1 week. So that in itself gives us a moment to pause and to understand what the elements of this crisis is and what our elected officials need to be doing to address the needs of Kansans. So let's real quick review. Heidi, if we could go to the next slide. Whoops, we lost my video. Let's see. There we go. The governor's executive orders. As I said, we started on March 17th with the local disaster being declared. That allowed us to apply for the federal funds, any programs, assistance that may be coming down. We needed to do that as a state. We then went to the mass gathering limitation of 50. That has since been rescinded, as I mentioned, and we're now under no gathering of 10 or more. Temporarily have put any types of disconnects on your utilities, internet, those types of things. The governor put an executive order up to stop any of those from applying. Obviously, during these difficult times, people are impacted financially, and she wanted to make sure they had those key facility utilities that they need. Again, 2007 then would have gone to the limited of the mass gatherings. The executive order 2006 was to look at the foreclosures. At first, the governor put across the board. She realized that that was a little bit broad and she needed to pull that in. So she rescinded that just last week. And Heidi, if we can go to the next slide. There we go. Telemedicine was another one that was critically important. I know we've got Molly from Advent Health that's on our call. It was key that we tried to make sure we could still meet the needs of all of our citizens in Kansas. So moving and allowing things like telemedicine, pulling back some of the licensing requirements so we can have more healthcare providers available to assist in this crisis. The Legislative Coordinating Council, which oversees the legislature, did meet this week via conference call. And one of the things that Majority Leader Denning pointed out is he would like for us to see even more flexibility with these licensures so that we can get more nurses who need to be in the hospitals helping during this key time. He gave an example of Missouri. So we might see this expanded more. He also talked about the need for the governor and the insurance commissioner to talk about allowing some video conferencing with insureds who might need assistance, and that could be an encounter the same as an in-person encounter. So again, just trying to make things easier for our citizens to get the assistance they need. We also had a lot of changes that are regulations that needed to be lifted on motor carriers. We need to keep supplies getting to Kansas and moving throughout our state. And so she needed to relieve some of those motor carrier restrictions in order to address those core supply chain needs. Next slide, Heidi, there we go. March 24th, we saw a lot of these executive orders come to fruition, those key things. The temporary on the foreclosures and evictions, I mentioned the governor had to revamp. She did limit that for any foreclosures that occurred since her disaster order was issued, so that anything that was prior, we weren't going to stop those foreclosures that were already in play prior to the emergency order being claimed. But anything due to the COVID-19, any loss of jobs or that would impact you being able to pay your mortgages, those types of things would fall under this foreclosure. Same things with eviction. Also, same as utilities, she wanted to make sure our waste and recycling services were not terminated due to lack of payment, all based on the ability to pay under the COVID crisis. In addition, she extended for driver's license and vehicle registrations 60 days past the need of the executive order. Once it expires, you will have 60 days to pay your car tags, to get your license renewed, all of those key things. Also, I know that the feds have pushed back the real ID requirements. They've also been extended due to this COVID crisis. The next major one is to follow what the feds did on tax filings. The governor has extended tax filings to July 15th to mirror what the feds are doing. That's not only for income tax, but also homestead, property tax, all of those filings. In addition, this is the temporary mass gathering of 10 or more. The governor on EO 2014, that's where she puts the perimeters around what organizations can be exempt from that 10 or more gatherings. So again, your hospitals, your grocery stores, those key functions that she sees necessary to keep our state moving. And then the last executive order that we've seen is trying to put perimeters around this statewide, where we are seeing 30-day mandates, stay indoors, wanting to make sure that we have consistency and parity throughout the state on the key essential function framework. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what the legislature did before they left and going to adjourn. The key was the governor only has 14 days available under her emergency powers. So it took legislation to ratify and provide continuation of that March 12th deadline past March 26th. So what the legislature did was to give the governor through May 1st, they extended her powers through May 1st, and then they plan to meet every 30 days to extend that as needed. It's important to note that the Finance Council is made up of the governor, legislative leadership, both the majority party as well as the minority party, and then it has both the appropriation chairs for the House and the Senate. So they will be the ones who will review the needs to extend this every 30 days, and it will take a majority of vote of this Finance Council to extend the emergency powers of the governor. Next slide, Heidi. Thank you. Before they left, though, there was a lot of concern that came about, mostly because it was right after the governor had closed the schools for the year. Kansas was the first state to close schools officially, physically in the state, and there was some angst among some of the lawmakers. Again, think back, you know, at the time things had not unfolded to where we are today, but there was some real concerns that particularly in the Senate, that they wanted to preserve civil liberties. So they put some perimeters in there where the governor could not have the authority under her executive powers to temporarily suspend or seize ammunition, to look at liquor sales, to look at transporting explosives. She wanted to make sure, or I'm sorry, the Senate wanted to make sure that those were going to be addressed by the legislature. So if any of these areas were to become a need that we had to control these under her executive powers, it would take the legislature meeting again and passing statutory authority for her to do that. Next slide. Unemployment. Again, Kansas has had record unemployment for the last several years. As I mentioned, the 2 weeks prior, we were at 1,082 who had filed for unemployment. Legislature had the forethought, though we did not know what it would be, that we would need additional weeks. And so we were currently living under a tiered program that had us at 16 weeks due to the nature of what our unemployment rate, because it was so low. Expecting that we needed to expand that, knowing what had already been going on in Wichita with the aviation layoffs, they went ahead and expanded that to the full 26 weeks, and they made it retroactive to January 1st of 2020. So that not only took care of those aviation layoffs that occurred earlier in the year, but it also would address moving forward. That is just set to expire April 1st of 2021. The legislature felt like if we needed to extend it past that date, they could be back in session next year in January and look to extend that further. It is also took back the waiting week, so benefits can be received immediately upon filing. So there's no longer having to wait that week before you can file. The House passed it unanimously. The Senate had a few holdouts who felt like we were moving too fast, that we needed to let the system actually trigger itself. And in hindsight, it did trigger itself because obviously our unemployment rate skyrocketed like we've never seen before, and we would have been under the 26 weeks already. Another key function was to give the Board of Education, the State Board of Education, the right to grant waivers for the number of school hours. Obviously, every community is different. Every school district has different capacities, but we knew that we needed to give some exemptions for those schools. So that was the ability that some schools may meet electronically, some may meet by just giving packets and turning in work, and some may not meet again this year, just depending on what their districts can handle. They did want to make sure, though, that schools did not do layoffs of their key employees. If they were going to continue to keep funding them, they wanted to make sure that paraprofessionals and custodials were going to continue to be paid and not to be laid off during the shutdown. And then the final key piece they needed to take care of was the judicial response. They wanted to be able to look at the courts if they needed to put things on hold due to the virus for the safety of their court employees and officers. So it expanded the powers of the court through March 31st, that they have the ability to do video conferencing for court. They have ability to postpone deadlines past what their statutory currently could have been. So at this point, the only state initiative that we've seen to try to help our small businesses is the bill that, or the program that was announced last Friday. It was called the HIRE program, the Hospitality Industry Relief Emergency Program. It essentially was $5 million out of the Job Creations Fund. That is our, what we would call our cash box that we use to incentivize businesses to try to come to Kansas. But the governor and her Secretary of Commerce, David felt it was important to try to help businesses who currently are in Kansas. So they did take $5 million from that fund and use it to help provide grants to our hospitality industry. The program was exhausted within 24 hours. And so essentially they split it up by regions in the state. They had $2 million for the Kansas City area, $1 million for Wichita, and then another $2 million for the rest of the state. I did sit in on a call yesterday that indicated the largest loan they were able to give out was $15,000. So they did not hit that top threshold of $20,000 based on the sheer need. The secretary did say that they are continuing to take applications. So please, if you are in the hospitality industry and you are still needing relief, they don't know what other assistance programs will be coming down from the feds and dollars that could become available. So they want to be able to have those already in the process of applying so that if additional money becomes available, they can process that quicker and get it out to the businesses who need it the most. The other assistance that's been out there is when we filed as a national emergency as a disaster state, that allowed our businesses to file for disaster loans. So currently, right now, all 105 Kansas counties do have the ability to apply for economic injury loans. They are at a reduced interest rate. It's 3.75% for small businesses. And if you are a nonprofit, it's 2.75%. These loans can be to help you pay debt, to pay payroll, and any other bills that might need to try to keep your business going. There is a link in this presentation. We will be sharing those that will help you be able to apply for those loans. The other area that's been very active is the Department of Labor. Secretary Garcia, again, was on the call. She is urging anyone who has layoffs as an employer that you file by spreadsheet. Anybody who is needing to access benefits and apply for unemployment insurance to do it also through www.getkansasbenefits.gov. I will tell you right now, they don't have the capacity to do phone calls and to receive incoming calls. So everything is being communicated through the website. Unfortunately, because we've had such low unemployment for the last several years, their staff just was not ramped up in the unemployment division. And then in addition to that, with the 2-week administrative shutdown by the governor, they are working on a skeleton staff right now, but they are looking to pull resources from all areas of the Department of Labor to try to assist, because they know this is where the greatest need is right now. So as an employer, be patient. If you do have layoffs, make sure you file by spreadsheet, but also please think about considering looking at the job sharing program. That's an opportunity for you to move employees to part-time, but then also be able to help supplement their income, because they can draw down part-time benefits, partial benefits through the unemployment program, but it allows you to keep them getting reduced hours, but still receiving some income, as well as getting the assistance. Right now, our weekly wage averages at $488. With the legislation at the federal level, it looks like that could go up to $600 if we get that bill passed by the House today. Next slide. Thank you, Heidi. Again, the Department of Commerce wanted me to share a few messages with my business clients, and that is to, they are open for communication. They want to know if there are any barriers that are stopping businesses from accessing federal assistance or keeping their business open. If there are things they can do to try to make assistance more available to them, or things they can change to make it easier to keep your business open, they want that real-time data and feedback. So if you have any of that, please reach out to Ann at the Chamber. We'll get you in contact with the correct person at the Department of Commerce. We did ask if there were any other state-funded programs right now that are providing assistance, and the only other one they were able to share is the Community Benefit Development Grant. Those are for local communities, and they do have $6.3 million that they are looking to try to make available to communities throughout Kansas. And they've worked to try to reduce those requirements to get approved for these programs, such as the filing deadlines, the environmental requirements that have to be done, and getting a 24-hour turnaround on those applications. Here's a list of resources that are available. This is by far not an extensive list, but it at least helps you at the state level. Each one of the state agencies has a COVID response specific site. So if you go to their main webpage, there'll be a place for you to link and to look for specific COVID information that may help you through these difficult times.
All right, Natalie, thank you so much for all of that information. And again, that information will be available also on the Shawnee Chamber website. And I believe now we do have Kate from Representative David's office on the line. So Kate, if you are ready, we'd love to hear what's going on with the Families First Response Act and the rest of the information that you're here to share.
Yeah, hi, this is Kate Rohr from Representative David's office. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, I want to share a little bit about what the Congress has been doing so far. I know Senator Moran has a staffer on who can talk about the most recent package that they just passed very late last night, so I don't envy their hours right now. So I'll start actually first with the Coronavirus Preparedness and Response Supplemental Appropriations Act, which was the first bill that Congress passed and the president signed to deal with this pandemic. It became law on March 6th, which truly feels like an eternity ago. I can't believe it's the same month. It was an $8.3 billion package, kind of just like a starting point to begin the response to this pandemic as things were ramping up in the US. It provided funding for the CDC, for the FDA, for state and local public health departments, so that they could respond to this crisis, so that they can purchase the personal protective equipment or PPE that they need to be able to treat these patients and to test them properly. It also provided funding for vaccine development, which, unfortunately we do not anticipate in the very, very near future, but is obviously very important long term and going forward to ensure that this crisis does come to an end and that we can prevent it from happening again. It also crucially allowed $1 billion, up to $1 billion in loan subsidies for small businesses who are being affected by this crisis. That's an incredibly important piece. It funneled more money for these disaster loans that you mentioned, which is great. Our office has been trying to make sure that we connect folks who are interested in those loans with the resources that they need, and and I would encourage you to reach out to our office if you have any questions or need help finding them. I think you gave the URL, so I very much appreciate that. We're very excited that Kansas got the disaster designation over the weekend, and so all our small businesses are now able to get up and running. And we've been pretty pleased with the SBA administrators' responsiveness to these issues, and so we're very, very excited about that. As you all may know, Representative David sits on the Small Business Committee in the House, and so she is very concerned about the effects of this on small business owners, and wants to make sure we're doing all we can. So then we can get into the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which there's a little bit of info up there on the side currently. That became law on March 18th. So that is kind of a second approach to make sure that all the folks who are being really hard hit by stay-at-home orders and by coronavirus diagnoses and school closures have the assistance they need. The bill provided millions in food assistance to vulnerable populations. It also really crucially allowed some flexibility in school lunch programs to make sure that those kids who are still reliant on those programs can get the food even if they're not coming to the same physical location every day. It provided a number of paid sick and family leave provisions, both for those who cannot work because of a diagnosis or are trying to get tested or have a family member with coronavirus, but also for workers who have kids at home because, as you know, I mean, there's no more school this year in Kansas, and so that obviously impacts a lot of families, and some of them have children who are too young to stay home by themselves or don't have daycare prepared, and so it's really trying to make sure that folks are able to take care of themselves and their families, since taking care of ourselves and our communities first is how we will get through this the fastest way possible. And I can touch on those in just a minute, in a little more detail. It also issues emergency grants to state unemployment insurance programs. I'm sure you all saw the kind of disheartening news about I think 3 million unemployment claims that have been made just in the last month in the U.S., which is truly unprecedented. And states are the primary arbiters of those programs, and so we really need them to be able to have the administrative capacity to handle all those claims and requests. So that's a pretty important factor, although we're hoping that we can avoid folks needing that. So a little bit, just the last thing I'll mention, the Families First Act also ensured that anyone in the U.S., regardless of whether you're on Medicare or Medicaid or private insurance or no insurance at all, can get free testing for COVID-19. There's obviously a lack of adequate testing in this country, something that I know we're all working towards fixing, but in the meantime, it is so important for everyone who has, especially right now, severe symptoms to be able to get tested, and so that's a really key factor. Talking a little bit about the paid leave, the requirements for employers to offer paid leave are for employers with more than 50 and fewer than 500 employees. They're required to provide that up front, but the federal government will be refunding that within 3 months to a full extent. There are a little bit different provisions for whether it's sick leave or family leave, but really important, something that Representative David has been focusing on a lot, especially in the last week or so. I don't know who all saw, but she herself has been in self-isolation since she was exposed to one of her colleagues with coronavirus. She, has really wanted to emphasize the importance of social distancing and staying home when you can, and and not going to work unnecessarily, not going to the grocery store every day of the week. It's really important that we do everything we can to flatten the curve to ensure that our hospitals and our doctors and nurses have the resources they need to treat the patients they have, and to not, make that unsustainable and force them to make really tough decisions that none of us want them to make. So that's been a real focus, and that's kind of where that paid leave is also important, is making sure people can stay home, as much as possible. Hopefully, working from home when possible, but that's just not the case for every industry. So that's kind of my brief update. If anyone has, more specific questions, I know we're going to do a little bit of Q&A later, but my name is Kate Rohr, R-O-H-R, and you can reach me at kate.rohr, R-O-H-R, @mail.house.gov. I just want to encourage everyone, if you have questions, to reach out to our office. And even if I don't have the exact answers, I'd be happy to pass them on to whoever does in our office. So please feel free to reach out. And then I'll let Senator Moran's office take it away to tell us about the exciting new bill that we have.
Oh, Alex? While we wait for Alex to get connected, I do just want to remind you all that there is a chat function within the Zoom webinar. And so if you'd like to send in any questions to any of our speakers today or just generally to the chamber, please feel free to go ahead and do that as well. Alex, are you on?
Yeah, can you all hear me? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Yep.
Hello?
Yep. That's great. All right.
Okay, great. Apologize, I was having technical difficulties there. My name's Alex Richard. I'm Senator Moran's state director here in Olathe, and just wanted to give you a heads up on the bill that passed late last night, 96-0. It was close to a $2 trillion bill stimulus. It was the largest stimulus package ever passed in the United States in one of the chambers. It's going over to the House, where I think they're going to have a vote. Last I heard was tomorrow morning, and it may try to go by UC and then hopefully over to the president. So hopefully this is done by the end of the week. It's a massive, massive bill. That covers a wide range of topics, but I thought I'd focus on a couple of them that are important to businesses and the nation itself. One is that it creates a paycheck protection program through the Small Business Administration, and it's kind of like through a 7A loan. This type of loan will go through your lender, whether it's a community financial institution, a bank, or a credit union, and it increases the federal guarantee of this load to 100%. So basically, what we're saying to the lender is you're gonna get the loans processed. We will the federal government will fully back these loans. Time is of the essence. We need to get money out. And so these loans would qualify for small businesses that are 500 or less, or 501c3s. That includes sole proprietors, contractors, or self-employed. For that 500, for the hospitality and restaurant industry, it does waive affiliation rules that they have. And so it defines a payroll period from February 15th to June 30th. And so what this bill does, and this program does, is allow for the loan to be used for working capital. And that means the first 8 weeks of payroll can be covered by this loan. Mortgage interest on a building you own or rents would also be covered, and so will utilities. And it has a formula to determine what your maximum allowable would be. It's based on payroll, income, stuff like that. But it allows for up to a $10 million maximum loan through SBA. Now, the interesting part that you guys might be interested in is if you hit employment target numbers, and basically they'll go back from the last 8 weeks of the prior year based on when your loan originated and your employment numbers for the preceding those 8 weeks your loan was originated. If you hit those employment numbers and are pretty much keeping the employment numbers steady from what it was last year, then a lot of that loan is forgivable. And for the forgivability, it'll be 8 weeks, the 8 week of payroll from when the loan originates, and any interest payments on mortgage or payment of rent or utility payments. There's some conditions on that where the amount forgiven can't exceed principal. Obviously, it can't be any wages over 100,000 won't be counted. The first 100,000 counted, and if you do let go of people or reduced hours, your forgiveness of that loan will be proportionally reduced based on the formula. And we did put something in that on that bill that said, okay, if you've already released people, you can rehire them if you have that SBA loan, if you decide that's what you want to do. In your first weeks of ramping up where they compare the weeks, you will not be hit. So you will not be penalized if you had already let go of people, assuming you rehire them. And those first few weeks, they look at the employment numbers. If they can see you're rehiring people, they will not penalize you for the forgivability portion. So I know there's a lot of questions. There will be a lot of questions about that. And finally, for that SBA program, any forgiven debt is not taxable for IRS purposes. And I know there'll be a lot of questions on that. I'll give everybody my cell phone at the end, and you can personally call me, and I don't know the answer. I will get the answer for you. The next, there are some other provisions for businesses. One is a payroll tax rebate, and let me look. I'm trying to find my notes. Just give me 1 second, please. Oh, here it is. So it provides a refundable payroll tax for 50% of wages paid to employees during a crisis, assuming the business has been operational or partially suspended due to a shutdown order. And that also applies to companies that see a 50% reduction in receipts. So Johnson County has been under a shutdown order. If you've been operational or partially suspended, 50% of your wages, this is your Social Security payroll, employer payroll taxes, will be credited back to you. Second part, we did the massive stuff with unemployment insurance. I'll get into that real quick. We create a pandemic UI for the first time. Self-employed, independent contractors, people who are traditionally covered by UI will be. This program will run through the end of the year, and you'll be able to apply for insurance benefits. We had an emergency increase in unemployment insurance. So for the first 4 months, the feds will give $600 a week extra on top of what the state's giving. And for those that have exhausted insurance through the state, this legislation provides another 13 weeks of unemployment benefits after the state's is exhausted. The legislation includes a rebate check for a large percentage of Americans. In this case, it'll be a $1,200 check for individuals making $75,000 adjusted gross income, AGI, or less. And for married, it's a $2,400 check for married people up to $150,000 of AGI. For those that have children that meet this threshold, there's a $500 credit for refund per child. This is phased out at higher income levels. So from 75 to 99,000, it's phased out at about $50 per $1,000 of AGI, and individuals over 99,000 will not get a check. For married couples, that is 150 to 198,000. It's phased out. Ideally, once the legislation's passed, the IRS has large amounts of direct deposits for people. That's how they're going to try to get the money out fast, hopefully in the next week or two once it's signed. For those that numbers don't work, checks will be put into the mail for those that qualify. So if you've moved, if there's a your direct deposit that you filed, they're basing this off of 2018 returns, which were the last available returns. So if they've changed, contact our office or a congressional office, and we'll help navigate that system so you get the money fast. Finally, I'll hit on other just random things, not really random, but things contained in the bill. There is a $500 billion pot of money set aside for the Treasury Department that will be looking at larger businesses, aviation industry. Companies can apply through the Treasury Department and get relief. A lot of that's going to come with requirements on, some stock buybacks and CEO pay. But for larger companies, $25 billion set aside for the aviation industry, which will help Kansas because we're a large aviation state. Hopefully, this will help trickle down to our suppliers in the state. I've had people ask about little odds and ends. For 401k, they got rid of the 10% penalty. So if people are desperate and want to tap into their 401k, they can without the 10% early withdrawal penalty if you're below the retirement age. And if you can take out up to 100,000 without the 10% penalty, and that 100,000 is considered income, but you can spread that over 3 years to pay it on income taxes. And it also gives you the option, if you get back on your feet and you want to pay your 401k, you can repay that without penalty. There was a large amount of money just appropriated for different things. A couple things I'll highlight is there was a $150 billion direct fund to states and cities to use for COVID-19 response, and also for states that are going to be losing income, revenue from into their general coffers because of the reduction in income taxes and sales for taxes and stuff like that. For each state, the minimum amount they will be getting is $1.25 billion. That's for the smallest states. So Kansas, the state of Kansas, will be getting a direct infusion of somewhere in between 1.25 billion and a little bit more based on a formula that's going to be made out. My guess it'll be about 1.5, 1.6 billion to the states, which will be important. This bill also gives $100 billion to hospitals. That was very important to in direct assistance to hospitals. We do some other things that hopefully the entire package will be around 130 billion. That was important to Senator Moran because a lot of hospitals, may not know, are deferring elective surgery. They're losing revenue left and right to combat this COVID crisis, and so a lot of their revenues are falling a lot of the revenue generators are falling very fast, and they needed some sort of guarantee. Hey, when you're helping us, the United States, face this pandemic, we'll have something that can help shore up your funds down the road. So hopefully that will give certainty. We also provide $16 billion to the national stockpile. A lot of people are talking about testing, with rightfully so. The lack of tests, something we've spent a lot of time looking at. We're starting to see private labs get out and tests are wrapping up, not as fast as we like, but they're getting up there. The next thing we're going to have is a critical shortage in PPE, which is personal protection equipment, masks, gloves, gowns for hospital workers. And we realize that this is a huge issue. And so we're trying to, we have a national stockpile for these equipment. Ventilators is another one. And we'll go from there. And I had a question, any questions I can have. I've probably gone on too long, or anybody that's looking for assistance. I'll give you my my direct cell phone number. It's 913-605-8170. Again, it's 913-605-8170. Feel free to give me a call at any time, and if I don't have the answer, if you're looking for help, I can put you in touch with the right person. And I'll just highlight one more time that this has passed the Senate, still needs to pass the House and be signed by the president. The hope is that this will be done in the next day or so. And after that, I would anticipate we're going to have a phase 4, maybe a phase 5 bill that needs to be passed. And that'll probably take shape in the next month or so. So if you see any issues with the stuff that's been passed into law, bring it to our attention so we can address it in a future piece of legislation. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Alex, thank you. That was a lot to take in and some really great information. And again, to everybody on the call, if you have questions now, please feel free to ask, or if as you start to read through and digest this information, Alex generously gave you a cell phone number, or you can reach out through the chamber and we can be that conduit for you. I want to get into a few things the chamber's doing, but I do want to say that, everybody that I've had the opportunity to speak with, from Senator Moran's and Representative David's office, and to the Secretary of Commerce, David Tolan, and even the County Commissioner. I mean, they really are wanting to know how we can best serve our businesses. Everybody recognizes the vital part that you all play in our economy, throughout the state, throughout the region, and definitely here in Johnson County. And so if there are things that you think may have escaped our attention, or that we just have not thought about, of course, everybody is moving a million miles an hour trying to aggregate this information and present it to you all as quickly as possible. So please get back in touch with us and let us know how we can help you. I do want to let you know that on Monday, March 30th at 10 a.m., there is a webinar on the SBA new information that has come out and all the loans. We will have that information in our daily email today, and it will be on our website as well. So stay tuned, look out for that information, and of course you can email me or anybody on the chamber staff directly to get that information. We have a question.
There's a question on the chat. Where can we find out more information on the payroll tax rebate?
We will work to get that information out to you. And I don't know if anybody on the call has any additional information to share on the payroll tax rebate.
This is Alex. I do have the bill. It's 880 pages. I do have a summary that I can give. A lot of it's going to be, once it passed, IRS is going to be, and Social Security will designate some rules on how they're going to implement it. But for specifics, give me a call, or if somebody can give me email addresses, I can email it to people, just the summaries in the legislative text.
Okay. Alex, if you want to share that, we will have this webinar and the slides up on our website. We'll send all that link out today on our daily email, and then we can just include any additional information at that time. So that way we can make it available to everybody if that works.
Excellent. I will send it to you and you can put it up.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen. I do want to go over a few things that we are doing on the local level. First, as we've talked about here, there is so much information that is coming out. We have, over the past week and a half, been sending out afternoon emails each day on the newest information that is available. Hopefully you're receiving that. We have through the city of Shawnee has generously allowed us to use their business license list, which is something that we don't normally have access to, but so that we can make sure that we are sharing our information with everybody that is that has a business or is doing business with Shawnee. So make sure that that's in your inbox. If not, check your junk email. Lots of great information in there every day. We have compiled a fairly robust resource center on our website. All about the SBA, the financial programs. We've also got some information on there on tips on how to work from home. And I know many of you are like me now, also running your own homeschool. So there's a lot of great information out there. And if you see resources that you think that we could also be sharing and that would be important to everybody else, let me or Dustin Wolf in our office know, and we will make that available to all of our members and all of the businesses in Shawnee. We have, as you know, the mandate came out last week that our restaurants would no longer be able to have in-house dining. So we have been working very hard to support our Shawnee restaurants and all of our Shawnee businesses. We've created a very robust website with our businesses, our members, the links to what they're offering, if it's curbside, carry out, delivery, and all of our non-members as well. We have been pushing that out on our social media. And I guess this is just my plea to you that if you can, please do your best to support our local Shawnee businesses. As a business owner, you know that that it's important. And so we all, the chamber, we've been buying lunches and getting beers from our breweries and hosting our own happy hours. So we encourage you to do the same. There's a lot of great ways to be creative, and we've had some businesses that have been pretty innovative in the ways that they're trying to solve these problems. We know now that mandate as of this Tuesday, the stay-at-home order and non-essential businesses, is really a struggle for so many of you, and we're really working to figure out the best ways we can help serve you. Of course, your information's out on our website, and we're had a call this morning on strategies and ways that we can make sure that we are supporting you during these times. And so we're always, again, looking for any feedback that you can provide to us. The other need that we see that we can be effective in helping right now is that there have been a lot of jobs impacted. Obviously, the information that came out from the feds regarding the unemployment and at the state level is going to be very important. But if we can help, if any of you are in a position where you have to lay off some of your staff and it's perhaps just a temporary issue, we're looking and trying to identify those companies that are hiring, Amazon and FedEx and our grocery stores, and spoke with the manager of Walmart yesterday, and they're hiring as well. So we ask that either if you have people that you know are going to be needing employment, or if you are hiring, please get that information to us so that we can share that with all of our members. Again, this is a time that we all need to be supporting each other, and I think this is a really great way that we can do that. We'll be pushing that information out on our social media as well. So if you haven't liked our Facebook or Twitter account, please do so. Dustin Wolf in our office is doing a great job of keeping everybody informed. And, you know, we are adjusting as every other business is to kind of our new look and what this means. A lot of what we do and a lot of what we foster are those in-person connections. I know a lot of you have a lot of friends that you get to see at our events. And so we are trying to figure out innovative ways, such as our lunch today, to make sure that we're still connecting and informing you and being your advocate. We're starting our first online networking AM Connect. We're picking up with our normal Wednesday AM Connect next week. It will be online. We're creating some other opportunities, coffees, happy hours. We have a roundtable this afternoon with some of our restaurants. So we are working to do that. Our committee meetings, if you are a member of our small business or ambassadors or Flex, those committee meetings will still be held. They will just be online for April and possibly May. Of course, we don't totally know, so we ask for a little grace as we continue to figure out our timing and programming of all of this. Part of the email that you will have this afternoon will be, or excuse me, tomorrow afternoon will be a survey that is asking you to give us input on those types of sessions. If it's an Ask the Experts coffee meeting where we bring in people from the SBA or local employment law attorneys, whatever that might be. Maybe it's help with new social media marketing campaign. Those are resources we can bring to help you, and it's part of your membership. It's part of what we do every day to serve you. So let us know. We need the feedback, and we hope to be here for you. Now, I'd be happy to take any questions. I know we're kind of up on our hour, but would love to hear what you're all thinking and if there's any way that we can be of further service to you. All right. All right, group. I'm going to put Mayor Disler on the spot. I see that she's on the call. Mayor Disler, is there anything that you would like to share on behalf of the city? Nope. Maybe she's got off. All right. Well, great. Oh, thank you all so much for taking some time and joining us from your home office or wherever it is you are today. And again, just another reminder to listen to what our medical professionals are saying. Practice the social distancing, stay at home when you can, wash your hands, and I'm hoping to see you all in person very soon. Be well.